Free agency is really close now for the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL world, and we've talked about several players who could be off the team by the time the 2024 season kicks off. Tonight, we will discuss those players, 8 starters who could be off the team, and we'll talk about what their return likelihood looks like, low, medium, or high. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. No live show tonight, but I couldn't leave you hanging. So here are the 8 Cowboys starters who could be off the team by the time the season starts. 8 former starters. Coming in at number 1 is the obvious one, the big one in my opinion, Tyron Smith. Now, Tyron Smith projected by A to Z Sports to sign a 2-year deal worth $25 million, which would come out at an average of $12.5 million for a Tyron Smith that, last year he signed for a cheaper contract, reworked deal, incentive-based, and a lot of people are saying, you know what, let's run it back with Tyron. Let's run it back with number 77 and have him sign a similar deal, which in theory sounds great. But I don't think people are accounting for the fact that he is the top tackle in this free agency class, and there are a lot of teams out there that need tackles. Now, there are going to be plenty of options available in April when the NFL draft comes around, but tell that to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who might be just looking for somebody that is a safe bet. Tyron Smith might not be safe in the sense of durability, but he is coming off of a second-team All-Pro year with some of the best metrics among every tackle in the NFL. My return likelihood for Tyron Smith is high. I do think the contract is going to look very different. I do think it's not going to be one of those, heavily playing time incentive-based contracts. I think Tyron would get better offers in the market, but I do expect Tyron Smith, who has played 13 years for the Cowboys, to want to stay put for what could be his final year in the NFL. Coming in at number 2, Stefon Gilmore, another starter. My return likelihood for Gilmore is medium. A lot of people would go with high because, the Cowboys liked him. He played well for them, and we know Mike Zimmer loves Stefon Gilmore. However, there are a lot of teams needing a cornerback too in this market. And although there are, some solid free agents that are ready to hit the market in free agency, and there are some good options in the NFL draft, Gilmore is also kind of like a safe play for teams that are looking to be contenders or at least competitive teams in 2024. We know Gilmore can be a little bit of a mercenary. And I don't mean this as a knock at all on Gilmore, but he's gone from team to team and he's hit free agency before and made the most out of it before. I do think he's played 2 great seasons over the last couple of years, even going back to his days as an Indianapolis Colt. So I expect Gilmore to test the market and field some offers, but ultimately I believe the Cowboys want him back, and they could have him back. A to Z Sports projects his contract, as a 1-year deal worth $8.5 million, fully guaranteed. Can the Cowboys make it work? We'll see. We'll see if they do it via a voidable year type structure where they can play around with the cap numbers. Number 3 on the list, Tony Pollard. Now, my return likelihood for Pollard is low. Here's what I believe we know about Pollard so far. He's not going to come back in an expensive deal. The Cowboys are not going to sign that running back 1 type deal anymore. They know what they got in Pollard once they wanted to turn him into the every down back. It was not all his fault, right? The scheming was not great. The blocking was not great for Pollard. But I do think the Cowboys are just going to be interested in going back to running back by committee and try to go cheap at the position. There's the dead cap charge about to hit from Ezekiel Elliott last year as he post-June 1st release. Maybe the Cowboys are not going to want to commit all of those resources into Pollard and instead look at a flooded running back market, which has a long list of running back free agents. We'll talk about that more in depth coming up in ADC Sports one of these days. But in the meantime, though, I believe the Cowboys are going to let Tony Pollard walk in free agency if that's what it takes. But they shouldn't budge in their position that they're not going to sign him for a crazy deal. And if they do, it shouldn't be a heavily guaranteed type deal. And the Cowboys could also look at the running back position in the NFL draft. So return likelihood for Pollard is at low. Tyler Biadasz, give me him at medium. I've talked about this before, man. Biadasz is a starting center in the NFL, and I get that. But the Cowboys might be looking to get nastier at center, get better at center. Now, the problem with it is that if you don't sign Biadasz now, you're basically forcing yourself to go center no matter what in the first round of the NFL draft. Or even worse, maybe go at it in the second round and you're just at that point maybe betting a little bit too blindly as to who's going to be your starting center in 2024. However, it will be tough to pay him and then look for a upgrade. So Tyler Biadasz, man, return likelihood to me, medium. I think there's a real chance he doesn't come back in 2024. Next up, Michael Gallup, who has a low return likelihood for the Cowboys. We've talked about this already, man. Although he started 13 games and thus qualifies as a starter in my list, he did average only 42% of the snaps from week 8 on when he was benched against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first half. 42% snap count on average. Combine that with Michael Gallup being set to make $8.5 million in salary in 2024, and that very likely leads to the Cowboys turning the page, man. They can post June 1st, release him, and open up $9.5 million in June. Next up, Jayron Kearse, another player with a low tag on my end. Return likelihood is low for Jayron Kearse. Dan Quinn is out, who carved out that role for Jayron Kearse in the first place. And Kearse has been on a steady decline. Missed tackles percentage has more than doubled since 2021 when he balled out for the Cowboys and put together a Pro Bowl caliber season. He's been worse in coverage as well, allowing over 80% completion rate when thrown his way, when passes are thrown his way in 2023. Jayron Kearse, man, I just think Mike Zimmer coming in and installing a little bit of a more traditional defense, that means Jayron Kearse is out. And Juan J. Thomas is there waiting for a chance. Marquise Bell is waiting to turn back to safety. So the Cowboys have options right there. Coming in at number 7, Jourdan Lewis. And give me Jourdan Lewis, man, at a return likelihood of medium. I think it's tough to get rid of Lewis at this point. There are a lot of teams out there that need a cornerback, though, and thus his value could be a little bit higher than the Cowboys like, maybe. I'm not saying like a top-tier deal, but just maybe not what the Cowboys are looking for. Jourdan Lewis, though, was great for the Cowboys, especially down the stretch, man. Among 75 cornerbacks with the most snaps this year, Lewis was 13th in missed tackle percentage, according to PFL. He had those TFLs as well late in the year. Jourdan Lewis, with Daron Bland on the roster, can be your true cornerback for no matter who goes down. Because Bland can kick outside if needed. The Cowboys can go through that with no problem. Coming in at numbers 8, and to put an end to this list, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Hankins. Big Hank. What is going to happen with this guy? His return likelihood, to me, is perhaps out of every player that we've talked about so far, the highest. And I think it's because of a perfect mix of circumstance. Number 1, the Cowboys do need a nose tackle. Number 2, Hankins has played the position well. Even if the team needs an upgrade, like they know they need a nose tackle and they know he does it well. And number 3, Hankins does require an inexpensive deal, right? It's likely going to be somewhere around $1.something million, just like last year. Jonathan Hankins is not exactly young, right? He's been playing over a decade in the NFL. He's playing a low-value position, at least in terms of the market. So the Cowboys could bring him back, no problem. Jonathan Hankins has said he wants to come back to play. He has said the Cowboys seem to be interested in him ahead of the 2024 season. So, yeah, man, Jonathan Hankins, very high return likelihood. That will be it for me, guys, tonight. We're not live on this Thursday night, excuse me, but we will be back fully live Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central. And don't worry, I won't be taking too many trips this off season, but tonight or this weekend, I absolutely had to. So we're going to be back on Sunday night. And I wish you enjoyed this show. Hit the like button for me. I'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.